Hey, greetings. This is David Gamble. Welcome to Be Your Own Boss, where we delve into uh, people's how they started in their business, how they've evolved in their lives and their careers. And today we have Dr. Thomas Mallory Hill joining us from Chicago. And before I go any further, I just wanted to if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. And if more people to help more people find this content, and if you're interested in becoming your own boss, be sure to subscribe and tap the bell to miss any what's coming next. I've got a lot more insight coming and a lot more content. So with that, Dr. Thomas, why don't we turn it over to you and find out a little bit more about yourself, your background, where you started, and how you're at this point in your life.
Yeah. Well, I want to start saying humbly, I'm just a little kid from the south side of Chicago. At 70 years of age, I'm just figuring out that I've been fortunate to be here. One of the funny things about this journey being in this great state is that we've got a lot of criminals, and I'm glad I'm not one of them. A lot of people can't say that in various places, but I've enjoyed being in education, going on 46 years in the Chicago area. Just finished a stint about 2 years ago, in financial services for 45 years with a provider that has given me a great deal of satisfaction in helping a lot of people. And that's pretty much what I've been doing, Dave, is I've been in the people business since I've been 8 years old, delivering newspapers, teaching, and financial service.
So maybe let's talk about your education, your education career. I mean,
Okay.
how did you get into education? How did you
Oh,
become a teacher? What was the driving force on that?
I want to say my mom and dad. My parents were people who were very active in our community back in the late 50s, early 60s. My dad was a Republican precinct captain for a friend of his who happened to be the Republican war committeeman. And he decided to move to the west side of Chicago. And in a Democratic stronghold, it's still a two political party system, at least, well, in part. So my mom was the president of the PTA. So they were those kind of parents who were upstanding in the community. And there were six of us and my grandma. And they were the stellar kind of people. So with being one of the older out of four boys, you had to walk a certain line. And so, it was never, you could do this or that. It was always, there goes Mr. Hill's son. There goes Mrs. Hill's son. So they were both involved with Chicago Board of Education in various positions, paraprofessionals, that kind of thing. And I love school. I love playing, sports, and got a little part scholarship to play at the Division III school at Elmhurst College. That lasted about a semester because I did some stupid stuff playing intramural basketball and blew out my knee. And so there went the scholarship. After graduating from Elmhurst, like all college undergrads, trying to figure out that whatever your major is, that's where you'll get a job at, but it didn't work out for me. And so I bounced around for a couple, 2-3 years, and my mom and dad were like, well, you can always be a substitute teacher. You can get involved, and we know some people who could help you. So I did. And back in, I think it was in the late 70s, yeah, I started substituting in Chicago, recovering from reconstructive knee surgery, trying to figure that like part of my life out, since God had a different plan for me. And I got the teaching bug early. I mean, I had it all my life with my parents and teachers at school. So that's kind of what drove me, just being around academics and teachers.
I mean, besides your parents, did you have anybody that kind of guided you into being a student or a substitute
Teacher.
teacher, or kind
Well,
of showed you the ropes?
well, I would say, yeah, because that would be my coaches at school, at the high school level. Uh, and if I wanted to coach, which I did at one high school, one of my teachers became a principal and knew that I was working on my second master's degree. And yeah, so I got a chance to get in a school system and coach a little bit and tried my hand at that for a little while. But it was always the love of kids and, myself trying to stay in shape, and then finding out that there was an opportunity back in '94. The Chicago public school system, which was uh, like a lot of urban school districts, were centralized, and they just happened to have this black guy by the name of Harold Washington, who became the first black mayor in Chicago. And they had a different take on how they wanted to run the school system, and having local boards of education instead of just one centralized board. And so one of my teachers became a principal and said, "Hey, if you're going to work on your master's, come on over this way. And while you're learning how to figure out teaching, uh, we've got a shot for you." So that's how I
Well,
got in
did
'94.
the school district pay for your master's, or how did that work
Well,
with you?
when initially, no, um, because I had already started working on my master's program from National Louis University. Again, I used '94 because that was a watershed moment, an inflection point that a lot of school districts around the country were experimenting different models of governance, as well as helping students with testing. And that was still big, going on about testing. What occurred is later when I got in and I was certified, yeah, they have a program where they were doing tuition reimbursement, but they stopped that in '95. So, it's kind of one of those things that if you want to go to school and, you're doing it for professional development, not just because we're going to pay it. So, yeah.
What classes and what subjects, what grade age group was the best ones for you that you really connect?
Interestingly, yeah, interesting. Like I said, I had started my master's program at National Louis. They were really, and they still, I think, in my opinion, still are. They were like the number 2 country in the nation at that time in elementary education. So that kind of, at least in our area, it was from like pre-K or early childhood. They hadn't really done all those kind of iterations, but up to about 4th, 5th grade. Middle school was 6th to 8th grade in many of the districts in Chicago, and then there was high school. So because I came from business and accounting and economics, the social science track is where I chose to go as opposed to being a science person or a math person. So social studies, English language arts is what I did in middle school, and then morphed that into my second master's, which was qualifying me to be a principal and administrator. I did that regimen and got a second master's that, honed those skills for high school people, so from 6 to 12. So I have the 2 certifications, both elementary and high school type of thing, and administration as well. So I became, in fact, the funny thing about it, when I finished that program, I immediately enrolled in a doctoral program, and people didn't do that back in the '90s. They weren't supposed to. How could you be in a doctoral program, finished up your second master's, and you're still trying to work and coach? And uh, it was a challenge. Yeah, it was a challenge. But I
Yeah.
did it. But I did it. Yeah, I
So
did.
so did you go into administration or
I
did you
did.
stick?
I did. And the funny thing about it in Chicago, again, they're going through these different governance models. I actually became a principal for a short period of time at the very school I attended in 1960 when I was in kindergarten. So I came back full circle, right? Like I said, growing up and, PTA president was my mom and my dad was known in the community. And to come back to the very place where they started in 1960. And my dad even showed up to my job every day. I was like, "Dad, you can't come to work with me, okay? It's not bring your parents to work. That we have to, some employers let you bring your kids to work.
Right, right,
For me,
right.
for me, it was bring your dad to work today."
Oh,
So,
geez.
but I had fun, and so did
That's
he.
good. I mean,
Yeah, that's a great
it felt
story.
like it sounds like a community, right?
Absolutely.
Your parents were basically your guides.
Uh-huh.
Would you say that they actually? I mean, I don't know if it's you always talk about you want your kids to do something different from what you did,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was an engineer. My parents were basically trades, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
really didn't do much. Do you feel that way, or do you feel that just the fact that you're in that community
Just 2
really?
days ago, actually 3, David, my dad would have been 102 on August 13th had he lived.
Wow.
And they were both, my parents were only children. So I had a different perspective in that, not only upholding legacy and upholding,
Right.
that kind of role for the ones behind you, so to speak. Uh, you happen to choose a path that honors them. I still do. And so, in fact, when I did my first dissertation, and then I dedicated to my parents because they were instrumental, as well as many teachers and other adults who were in my life at that time. In fact, our high school football coach, we still keep up with him. He's 83, and we get together with him from time to time. Yeah,
Well,
these
yeah,
people are instrumental.
that's very good. That's very good. So 40, you said 46 years in
Still in it.
education.
Still in it.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and you still associated with them? How?
I renewed my certifications for another 5 years, so I don't think I'll have to go back, but I'm good to go. Yeah.
Oh, so have you like wanted to go back and substitute a little
My
bit just to?
my disability is keeping me from putting myself out. You know what? It's like almost like a animated cartoon character. Can you imagine a 70-year-old in a high school or middle school trying to stand up and teach classes and your hips and your back go, nah, I don't
Yeah.
think you want to do that. And then the kids go, we got one, yeah.
We got one that sits down all the time. Yeah, you don't want that. That's like authority
He can't
control,
move.
right?
Yeah, he can't move. Let's wrap him up in a chair. He can't move.
So yeah. So I mean, one of the reasons why we met was through Alignable. So kind of tell me how you kind of evolved in what you're doing today,
Yeah.
along with education,
Well,
and what made you kind of go that path.
It's interesting because a lot of us, when I joined Alignable 5 years ago in 2020, going through some other medical challenges that I had to overcome, I took what a lot of educators do it for their side gigs, is what I'm doing with this biotech manufacturer, and I had left accounting and financial services. So people are always looking to make extra money. We're in a gig economy, right? And everybody's doing something extra. But on Alignable, I got a chance to leverage all this expertise, David. And part of the opportunity of being loquacious and talking a lot, not being salesy, but just educating people about how to use the platform. And I'm surrounded in a community of other business owners and business professionals, you being one. And we struck that relationship up a few years ago. But I've learned a few nuggets about how to make that platform, how to maximize it, obviously based upon one's profile and what you want to do. There's a gentleman by the name of Tom Gay and another gentleman, William Doer. And they both poured into me and was instrumental about when you think about your unique, Tom calls it your unique selling proposition. Once you know what you want to do and are clear and concise, then you can find your ideal, customer or client. Well, that's what Alignable is about. It's about building relationships with those that you know, like, and trust. And then once you're clear, Alignable is the perfect platform to do what we're doing, like with your podcast. We're having one-on-one conversations. And if you can get to the meat of lay aside the sales and marketing, guru that's in each of us, and just be a human being and be transparent and authentic, you can then elicit, well, hey, David, how can I help you with, what you're doing? Or, hey, Tom, who are you looking for? How can I help you? And I think that has stood the test of time for me these last 2 or 3 years. And as an ambassador on the platform, being a national winner the last 2 years in their contest, it's brought some visibility. And I've tried to leverage that where I'm helping other people with their business.
What do you think you got? I mean, I don't know exactly how you got into Alignable, but from your education and from your, taking care of yourself, was there some connections that kind of, it's kind of like the doors were opening in that direction. And so what was those doors that kind of, oh my God, this has to be the right path?
Well, there are two people that were instrumental in my coming to Alignable because, again, in financial services, a lot of the industry, talk about getting leads. Back in the day when I started, it was the yellow pages, and you started with the A's and you go to the Z's. That's how you found leads, right? But my younger brother was already on Alignable. He's a techie guy, Brian, and told me about the platform, and another gentleman, Walter Applewhite. And they were like, oh yeah, this platform is like speed dating and you get to meet people and something called a Smart Connect. And once you get to be, and because you got a degree, they'll let you be a host and, you can do this and you're a teacher. And I'm like, well, first of all, what's a Smart Connect? And second of all, what's Insight? Because I didn't know, but,
Yeah, just words, weasel words that you got. Where did this come from? Are you making your own language?
Yeah. And then at the time it was like $39. I did the the monthly thing, and but what I learned from my brother was and how to look at the insights, how to utilize it, because you get these things called views, and they track. If you're a premium user, how many people have seen your content or seen your profile, visited your profile. They're not necessarily leads. I call them seeds. But the seeds that people can see your business, it's like if you had a brick and mortar business, they're walking by your store. They don't necessarily come in, or they're not inquisitive, but it's the clicks, David, that allow us to see who's visited our pages, who's been in our content. Now, it's not where you get a chance to say they visited your profile because they may just be inquisitive. But I have found that that data, that information of having those insights lets you look and see, are these the people that you would like to connect with or have a conversation with? Just because they clicked on your profile doesn't mean that's the person you want to, it's not even do a business, but just have a conversation. But I had to learn later. And I think one of the things that have stood me in good stead with the number of views, I'm approaching 700,000 views in the last 90 days. That number keeps growing. About 12 to 15,000 people who have clicked on my page, they have different interests. Maybe I've posted something that made them inquisitive, or maybe there was something in my current company where I'm promoting, if not my business, other people's businesses as an ambassador, and they want to know, hey, where's the next group meeting, or where's this, where's that? So I'm pretty judicious though about who I want to talk with, because not everybody I want to do business with.
How do you think that that's different from? I mean, I've joined the local business commerce community,
Mhm.
and it seems like arcane because it's based on brick and mortar, but it still has the connection. But you're always waiting for that next event
Okay.
of right.
Mhm.
How in your mind you see the difference between brick and mortar and then what Alignable's doing,
Yeah.
kind of getting to that. And what's the attraction for you? I mean, maybe it's just the being able to get enough eyes on your,
Mhm.
as you mentioned, views,
Mhm.
or is there something else that kind of differentiates it from a
Yeah.
regular commerce?
Let's start with this premise: whether it's BNI, a Chamber of Commerce, a PTA meeting, when you're in business for yourself. I like to use a phrase that I borrowed from another leader. When you're psychologically unemployed, you've got to go where the fish are. I used to be a hunter when I was in financial services, but in the way I look at now, being a fisher of men, uh, you want to be in a place where the fish are. And Alignable affords you, whether it's a virtual event or an in-person event, is to be where they are. But the difference is when people are open and they're transparent and they're honest, Alignable allows you to have conversations, not just about what you do, but who you are. Because all of us who are professionals and in business for ourselves have to earn revenue, but it's more important that you get a chance to know who you're doing business with as opposed to what you want to do. And so many people, I think, when they're constructing their profiles, they're trying to figure out what they want to do, what makes you, David, unique, and at the same time, utilize this profile that says, well, if I can't meet you in person, I can have a virtual meeting with you. So again, whether you're with your local alliance, but the one distinction that Alignable has made, David, is this: you can go to any meeting and people have loaded up with business cards and their paraphernalia and they're passing stuff out. You only get one set of information on a card: name, address, phone number, blah, blah, blah. And
That's it.
Alignable, you get to see the 200 people that each of us knows behind that one name. And
That's true.
therein lies the not the Spanish Inquisition. I'm sorry, I was going to say the inquiry, but to get to dig a little deeper and find out, who they know, because it's about a referral. It's about having people send people to you, being referred, not just meeting them face to face.
So you think this is more of I mean, you mentioned the word speed dating, which I've always used in the
Yeah,
one-on-ones,
yeah,
but it seems quicker. And I think business in general, maybe this is my opinion, is that this is the way it needs to go. You can't just have a brick and mortar without some type of interaction with your customers.
yeah,
I mean, we can't go back to Mayberry. I don't know if you remember
yeah. And
Mayberry and having, everybody in town type of
Barney and
thing.
Floyd, yeah, Barney and Floyd and Goober down the street, yeah, Everybody at
Yeah.
the
So
barbershop. Yeah.
yeah, you could do that, but will it really sustain your business?
Well, here's the thing and that's the key. When you look at your business or your model, not even not your model, but when you look at your business and you ask this question, do I have enough of the right kind of clients or enough of the right referral partners that I can collaborate with? And I use that phrase, the right kind or enough of the right kind. Everyone's business is different, but the truth of the matter is about a very large percentage, I'm going to say somewhere between 70, maybe even 90% of all of us who are in business are in the direct result of someone who knows you already. There's credibility, there's influence, there's transparency. And word of mouth is exactly that. So if it's Mayberry and Floyd's cutting your hair and you're in there talking about something and Floyd says, hey, David, you ought to go see Barney. He was working on something. The Goober's down the street. Word of mouth really just it's cost effective and it's done with enthusiasm and credibility. And hopefully that you get treated the same way when you're being referred.
I've known that probably since I got my first job. I didn't know anybody, but somebody referred me to, I forget, I think I went to a place called Long John Silver's. It was my
Oh
first
yeah.
job. So I think it was somebody at high school because it was in high school, and somebody referred me to them because they were working there. And so in every job since then, it's always been somebody on the inside that was giving me the job. It wasn't my resume, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was
Mm-hmm.
always I knew somebody, or they looked. I mean, especially with I kind of used LinkedIn as well, and LinkedIn has been a very good source of business as well from a career perspective, consulting. And it's if I have the right information, you mentioned profile, you mentioned the data that's there, the resume is already there, and people can search on you,
Yeah.
right? They can't
Yeah.
unless they refer you to that. But there could be somebody who says, "Oh yeah," and even still, I mean, I have to get that interaction. And there's been referrals within LinkedIn to people that, hey, you're looking for this type of job. Oh yeah, David can do it, or Thomas can do that.
Yeah.
That's in his wheelhouse.
Or that they know someone who could do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the pursuit of that networking is more critical now than ever because you can't get a job that you want in isolation, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
And the same
and
thing for yeah.
go ahead.
I was going to say the same thing applies for those who are of us who are self-employed. You may need to get a virtual assistant because you're overwhelmed with the mundane tasks because you don't have a system in place to do those kinds of functions. And yet somebody you still have to find someone, even if it's augmented intelligence or artificial, somebody has to monitor the monitor, so to speak, and to make sure that the bells and whistles are being flipped and the switches are turned on. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. I mean, in the end, I mean, it seems like you have a very wide net, if you call it the fishing. And that's an analogy I always use with religion as well, and being
Mhm.
Christian myself. It's always they always tell you you got to go fish. You always have to fish for men,
Yeah.
and it's that same type of argument. It's kind of like you got to know somebody, or
Mhm.
at least you've connected with them, but they may
Mhm.
not be ready for it at
Mhm.
that point in
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not you're too soon, right? But you've put I guess you can put the little birdie in their ear, that's something that may pop in their head later.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Well, I like to say, and the reason I said, when you're looking at the profile on Alignable, instead of looking at them as views, but looking at them as seeds, that the parable of the sower, Mark 4, uh, Luke 8, Matthew 13, I've learned that in prospecting is much like sowing seed. And not just from a spiritual concept, but they're applicable also secularly, because you don't know when you're bringing your message to people whether they're ready at that time. So maybe things are the seeds are you're walking in that path and you're just trampling on them. So those people you just trip over, what we call low hanging fruit, you forget to call them. Or maybe there are people, the seeds are planted where, you put them in rocks and the conversation didn't take depth. So, or the person didn't see your vision of what you're doing in your podcasting business, for example. Or how about those who see what you do and they get choked, but they see other things that take their attention away from, instead of coming to work and working with you in their strengths and your strengths, they get distracted. But then there's that small percentage of people, you know, who is planted in the right soil, man, it's taking root. You're cultivating the relationship. You're staying top of mind. Everything is going like, and all of a sudden you get a yield of 100 or 60 or 30. Again, it's straight out of the book. But here's the other side. When I have come to that conclusion for myself, and I'm patient with people, and I cultivate that relationship. And if your listeners are paying attention, my one of my I don't know, I don't want to call it brand, but people who know me know that if you talk to me long enough, a scripture's going to pop out of my mouth. And so I'll give you this just because it's in First Corinthians. I want to say it's either the third or fourth chapter, that the Corinthians and Paul had to tell those jokers that, you know, some people were saying, well, I'm of Paul's, and, you know, I like Peter, Cephas, he was telling me something. No, Apollos, I like the way he preaches. I like the way he talks. And Paul had to ask him, is Christ divided? You know, just because one guy is doing the watering and one guy is doing the planting, it's God who gives us the increase. And therein lies us who are self-employed, the seeds that we plant in our individual businesses. When people are ready for what we have to offer, they'll let us know. You can't force that. And if you want repeat business, if you want quality, we used to say in the insurance industry, if your retention, the customers that you will retain, or the people who keep coming back, it's because you treated them right. You planted it in the right soil. You did all the things that you were supposed to do, but it was God who moves people to do and come. And that increase, David, I've experienced. And Alignable just happened to be the environment where I flourished. I can't say that the same thing about LinkedIn, or I canceled my TikTok account because I didn't like the environment. But the other platforms, because they're social media, they pale in comparison to what we get from Alignable, because it's about relationship.
Yeah, I see that, and a lot of times I mean, I'm back and forth because some of my consulting work comes from LinkedIn, from my engineering perspective, but I always come back to Alignable for the one-on-ones, so to get to know more people. And sometimes I get into the trap of doing, you know, did I get enough sales at any one time? And it's not about that. It's about, well, how many people did I touch, right? How
There
many?
you go.
That's more important.
There you go.
And the more people I touch, the more like you mentioned, it's kind of more the root system, or or you can go upwards, and it's more the branch system. You just don't know where those branches are going to lead to.
And let me add this: those people who are paying members on Alignable have that one tool called the referral dashboard. That data is important, that you look at how many people are viewing you or your content.
Yeah, right.
And following up. I hate that word, but you know, following up to what their interests were, because you don't know.
Yep. Yeah.
They may just want to kick the tires, so to speak, right? But if you don't respond to those tire kickers, even, you don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I want to go back to I call them aha moments in my life. And it's usually been, I'd have to say, you know, being laid off the first time as an engineer, or learning something that I didn't know before, or it's kind of like, wow, I didn't know that type of thing. I wonder, from your experience, do you have those points in time that you can point back to? Says, well, when I heard that from that one speaker, or when I read that one book, it just opened up your whole new perspective.
Yeah, that happened this morning. In fact, Tom Gay has been instrumental for an 80-year-old who's developed a system of client development, but also building relationships, and has a tool called Content. I'm doing his own commercial, but Go Connect IQ. He just announced it. I signed up today. Picture this, David. You have a tool where all you have to have is the person's name, first and last. Okay. let's pretend they're all on Alignable. You went to a Smart Connect and you met them, but you know absolutely nothing about them. You can put their name in this Go Connect IQ, and it will spit out everything about them that is on Alignable or LinkedIn or wherever their space is. And you now have enough information that you can start a conversation about what's of interest to them. Now, I say that because he debuted it today. For your listeners, it's a, I hate to do a commercial like that. I feel like what's the guy that Ron Popeil selling the sedative, the rotisserie ovens, right?
Yeah. Or yeah, I got you.
For a limited time only, the first 100 people can get this Connect IQ tool for $59 for the year. These are the inaugural membership only. And so I was the third person who signed up today. I'm number 3, right? Some people that I won't mention their name because I don't have permission. But David, this tool that Tom created allows us, and especially for podcasters, you could drop this in the content Connect IQ, and you'll have everything about your guests. And so now your interviews are more fresh, they're deeper, they're enriched, they are, maybe make your guests more comfortable because you have something about them. And what he added today was you're allowed to, you put that in a PDF and maybe even send it to them like, hey, I learned that you like the Miami Dolphins or whatever, and that's what's going to separate David from other podcasters throughout the world. Why? Because he has something about the guest, and the guest is going to feel honored that, oh, yeah, so I didn't know you liked blueberry pie, or, yeah, I have this recipe. I'll give you one other one. It's like blew my mind. So he's got these articles, he calls them from the intelligent connector. And I did you already, David. I just want you to know. I think I shared that with you the other day when I was we were talking about Engage Pro.
Yeah, Engage Pro.
Yeah, and so that tool is there. And let's suppose again, I'll just use again. You like pie, lemon meringue pie, and I said, and so in preparation of this meeting, because I'm with another business that allows me to send gifts to people like Harry and David. I won't say their other name, and all of a sudden, the lemon meringue pie showed up today, right before the meeting. You're like, I just told Hill this like just 2 days ago, and I got this lemon meringue pie. Oh my God. Yeah. How powerful is that about deepening relationships, and makes me top of mind for you in this interview? And you're like, while you're eating the pie, you're like, yeah, I like this guy, man. He hit all the right buttons. But you're going to be able to do that for another. It's an amazing tool.
Yeah, that's good. I'll we'll drop the link in the chat summary for the podcast, and that would be very good. Just wrapping it up. I know that you offer a lot of products, but they're shown behind you as far as for cellular and genetic health and wellness. We can put in your link in the
Sure.
description as well.
Sure.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, I think what's important, at least for me, has been, excuse me, the strategy of, yeah, I'm building a global distribution channel with this organization. This technology, every plant, every animal, every human being needs it, because we can't live without 4 molecules of hydrogen, oxygen, sodium, and chloride. But it's these 16 electrons that were stabilized. Anybody in the medical or dental profession will tell you that redox signaling molecules that you can't stabilize because they're fleeting, they're like sparks, right? But they all know, those in the cellular and even genetic space will tell you that our mitochondria, every single cell has something called mitochondria. And that mitochondria supplies the energy for every cell, called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. So every person, everything is a battery, for example. If the lack of energy, right, that a human being has, or a plant or an animal, as we age, we lose about 1% of that ability to produce enough mitochondria to produce enough energy. And it comes from the foods we eat, the fuel, the water, our supplies. But what happens to all of us, whether it be environmental or internal, the stressors, they call it reactive oxygen species, or ROS, it produces something called oxidative stress. And that's not nutritional. That's just the pressure of growing old or or aging. And that's just what happens to all of us. We age. If you get a piece of iron and you leave it out, it's going to rust. Or, apples, you bite it. The oxygen that's in that molecule, those two molecules, well, one of them decides they want to do a jailbreak, right? They want to leave. And so because oxygen has two molecules, two electrons, two protons, two neutrons. Well, if you only have one, they call it a free radical. And it's like upset. It's like the one said, I'm divorced, I'm leaving, and they leave. So that free radical that's left is so pissed off, it's causing all kind of damage in our cells. And that is not a good thing. And so antioxidants have become, the last 50, 60 years, to try to balance that one oxygen electron that's causing all this damage. Well, redox signaling allows the body, that entity, to repair or heal itself. And so it's not a pharmaceutical, it's just a technology that we can reintroduce back into our bodies. And I find it's, for the last 5 years, more than a silver bullet. It's the foundation of life. But if I can take these molecules and put them back, but I eat Hostess Twinkies and Ding Dongs, and I eat processed foods, I'm not getting enough rest or not enough exercise. It's like, anything else, the things that are good for us, it's not enough because we're not doing all the things to keep this vehicle running at its maximum efficiency. Yeah.
Right.
And you know that as an engineer. I mean, if the equipment isn't working at its optimum level, you got to go in and tweak it.
Right. And no, I agree with that. I mean, it's just the basics of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't deal with it on the cycles, deal with the routines of every day, you lose out over time, right? You talk about kind of going back to business in general. Consistency is almost key in anything you do. You can't just do it once and thinking, oh, well, I don't have to do it tomorrow. No, you have to do it tomorrow as well. It doesn't, your one equation today or your one task today does not mean you can skip it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. That's the funny thing about, and the correlation is that a story an evangelist told me about. The wife they've been married 60, 70 years. And one day she turned to her husband and said, you don't tell me you love me anymore. Not because it's a song, but, they had that conversation. He goes, well, didn't I tell you this 60 or 70 years ago that I loved you? Nothing's changed. And she said, yeah, but a girl still likes to hear it every now and then. So like you said about consistency, just letting them know from time to time, sometimes not enough.
Well, it's good meeting you. It's good talking with you, Dr. Thomas Hill. And once again, we'll be putting your personal website, your website to get in touch with you, and a lot of contact information. And I appreciate it. And
would you like me to put that in the chat for you?
Huh?
You want me to put that in the chat for you? Any information you want me to put, or you want to do that separately?
Well, if there's anything different from what you already provided me, I'll put it in there.
Well, again, we just got the new announcement today, so that happened at 11 Central.
So you can email me that, and I'll put it in the chat.
Absolutely will. Yeah, and remember, act fast because the first one.
All right, thanks everybody. Appreciate Dr. Thomas Hill to being here, and we'll be chatting.
All right, thanks, David, for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks.